So, what have you guys been talking about in here with Justin? What has the series been? What is meditation, and is that it? Just meditation? Prayer.
Supplication.
Supplication.
Festivals.
Obviously, I haven't been in here for any of that.
Supplication is part of meditation.
Did you guys, any of you watch the live stream that Justin did during the snow week?
I was shoveling.
You were shoveling. You know, you can watch it after it's over.
Oh my
God. And so if you did or didn't, that was the last week of prayer meditation. So if you didn't watch it, you missed the end. Yeah.
So it's like a story you'll never know the end to.
Yeah, it's like a story you'll never know the end to. Why are we supposed to meditate? I don't know. It took him weeks to build up to it, and we missed it. It's online. You can watch it. If you would rather do that, you can leave and go watch it. I don't care. But basically, what that means is this is my opportunity to hijack Justin's new series and do whatever I want with it. He has to follow me. He's gonna watch this later. So we're gonna be starting tonight, and I'll just kind of give you the introduction to Justin's series. We're gonna be talking about honesty and integrity. Okay. So, does my clicker work? Oh my goodness, it does now. Sometimes you just have to turn things on, guys. It's fine. I just turned it on. Hey Ryan. Hey Alyssa. How are you guys? Good to see you. Welcome. So yeah, we're going to be talking about honesty and integrity. And before we get really into that, I just wanted to kind of define those things. Talk about what is integrity. Because I think that's going to be the focal point of the series, integrity. Because when you learn what integrity is, you find that honesty has a lot. It kind of is. It's part of integrity. You can't have integrity without honesty.
It's also a great drink at Wendy's.
What?
Integrity?
No, honesty.
Honesty, oh my gosh. Okay, well, it's not spelled like that on the board, so that means we're not.
I
No.
don't know. One allowed to make puns.
That is true. I'm the only one who's allowed to make puns.
No, it's honest.
True. So, what do honesty and integrity mean? I just want you guys to sit for just like 30 seconds and think about, when you hear the word integrity, what do you think of? It could be a person, it could be character traits. Like, what do you think about when you hear integrity?
Someone that's like 100% like themselves.
Okay,
That was not 30 seconds.
that's fine. She's allowed to answer.
Thank you.
Dave.
I think of like the food grits, like the southern food, like you have like biscuits and gravy.
Yeah.
That's my stuff. It's like oatmeal.
You think of integrity
like
It's gritty,
It's gritty, yeah, like the gritty stuff. It's good. It's good. Have it with some sugar.
Gritty, that's
Gritty.
gritty.
That's like
You're telling me that I ask a serious question to this
That is
group
my-
and you come back with a pun?
Absolutely.
Alright,
I'm not even good at them.
I'm the only person that's answering after 30 seconds. Integrity is a personality.
We'll get to it.
It's personality.
The right answer to this.
Honesty is more like anyone can be honest,
Okay.
but a person with integrity is someone who, even if they know they won't get caught, chooses the right thing.
Mhm.
And that's to be honest.
I really like that.
Yeah.
I really like that answer. What were you going to say, Sarah?
Just someone who acts the same no matter who's watching them.
Okay.
Or no matter what saying.
So what if, let me ask you this question. You said someone who's just themselves, right? And you said someone who acts the same even if they're watching them. What if I'm like a really bad person when people are watching?
You shouldn't be yourself.
But you still have integrity.
Do I though?
No.
But what? Okay, wait.
Integrity is only a positive
what if-
I
what
think
if-
integrity is like your strengths of character.
So what if who I am is a liar?
Don't be yourself.
Well,
Do I have
if
to
you're,
say
then you're lying.
If
you're being yourself, you're being honest.
If you're lying, you don't have honesty, and you said honesty is part of integrity.
It is.
So.
You can't have one without the other.
So boom.
So, but if that's part of who I am,
You can change your
then maybe it's not.
If
Yeah,
integrity is
you
just
work on
Then
it.
maybe you should be
I mean,
honest.
I'm in church right now.
integrity is just being honest and living
Well,
honest.
technically,
Being honest and living honest. Okay, I like that.
Yeah, I like that.
technically, sin makes us all liars.
Does
So,
any of us
here we go.
So no one's acting as their true form because we're always trying to be better.
Right. That's true.
So
Nobody-
integrity is probably the work of being more like Christ,
It's really,
and not
really.
like yourself.
If we were going to get really, really nitpicky, probably nobody has full integrity, right?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Jesus.
Sunday school.
We're gonna talk.
I was just.
We're gonna talk about it.
Wasn't it? There we go.
You said it first.
It's not a Sunday school answer if it's true, and if you've thought about why it's true. Okay? So I went and looked up some definitions of integrity, and I found 2 words in the Bible that mean integrity. One is in Hebrew and one is in Greek. The first one, that Hebrew word, if anybody can pronounce it,
Wait.
no, not which, the jumble of nonsense of which, that is an ancient sacred language.
It's like 4-4.
I don't know what, yeah, I know, there's not a big enough space between which and the Hebrew letters. I'm very sorry, guys. Please forgive me. Can we move on? But in the Old Testament, when you hear that word integrity, what it means is the condition of being without blemish, completeness, perfection, sincerity, soundness, uprightness, and wholeness. Like, I don't know about you, but I certainly don't live up to that definition of integrity. Okay? The Greek word, which is the word we find in the New Testament, might be a little bit easier for us to live up to. Maybe it's a little bit more within our realm. Honesty and the adherence to a pattern of good works. Okay, so generally, I'm doing the right thing. Generally, I'm pursuing a godly life, right? That's what these words translate to. So how we're going to define integrity as we go forward in this study this week and going forward is stability and trustworthiness, like a solid set of stairs, making godly choices in the face of temptation. And Grant, I really like what you said about making the right choice even if nobody's going to know you made the right choice. Even if there's not going to be consequences for making the wrong choice. Like if you know you can get away with the lie, but you don't do it. That's integrity. I really like that you said that. That was really good. Okay? So there's no cell phones in youth group, and so many of you have Bibles. This is amazing. None of the junior highs ever have Bibles.
I can't candy.
What's that?
I should have candy.
You know what? No. Because you guys, we have a couple verses we're going to look up. So this first one is in the book of Hebrews, chapter 4, verse 15. And it says, "For we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weakness, but one who in every respect has been tempted as we are, yet without sin." Who's this talking about?
God.
Jesus, right? Jesus is a high priest. He came to earth, and this is one of my favorite verses of all time, because anytime I'm tempted with something, I think about how Jesus was tempted in every respect as I've been tempted. So like, it doesn't matter what you're facing. Jesus knows exactly what it's like to face that temptation, to be like, man, I really, really, really want to sin, but not do it. And that's awesome. Question?
Yes.
Comment?
So like, which one's correct? The Hebrew version of integrity? Or
They're both correct.
So can you have integrity if you're striving to be like
Yeah. So obviously we're never going to have perfect integrity, because to live with integrity the way God defines it would be to live like Jesus. And I already messed that up. And I think you did too.
Yeah.
Okay. So sanctification and the process of becoming more like God, we can strive for integrity, and we get better and better as we go and as we devote our lives to God. Right? But we're not going to get there. Okay. Does that make sense? Does that work for everybody?
Yes.
Okay. So Jesus is the ultimate example of a man with integrity. He shows us how to conduct our lives in a way that is righteous before God. When we think about integrity, and when we are, there are probably a few different people in the Bible that we're going to look at as we go through the study that are examples of integrity. And ultimately, all of those men and women that we might look at failed in some way to be perfectly honest and full of integrity. Jesus is the one who did not. And going back to what I said, I love this verse, and I love how it highlights that Jesus was tempted. A lot of times we think about Jesus as being God, and like sin was like nothing to him. He was like, yeah, I'm not, going anywhere near sin, no big deal. But we forget that when he was in the desert being tempted by Satan, like that was a real temptation. Okay, it wasn't like easy for Jesus to say no. Okay, it doesn't matter what it is in your life. I know all of you struggle with temptation. I know all of you have that sin or that couple of sins or whatever it might be that like draws you in and you just can't get rid of it. I have those things in my life too. Jesus knows what it's like to face those things down and want it just as bad as you did, but he does not sin. That's what having integrity is. Because when he was in the desert, Satan was tempting him. And would anybody have known if Jesus just ate that bread? Or if Jesus just bowed down? Would anybody have known? No. Nobody would have known. Jesus showed integrity, and he stood up for what was right, even when it wouldn't have cost him anything. Okay? So, so in that kind of spirit of what integrity is and what honesty is, what are some other biblical people that you can think of that demonstrate integrity? And I actually had a hard time coming up with this list. Okay, I only have 4 people, and there could totally be more. I obviously don't have a comprehensive list, but these are people that the Bible calls people of integrity, not just people that I thought had integrity. So who do you think in the Bible? Yeah.
Joseph is the first person who comes to mind.
Joseph, yeah. So Joseph was at the top of my list. Last year when I was in Brazil, I taught a lesson about integrity, and I taught it out of Joseph's life. He is a man who we can look at and say, this is how God wants us to live our lives. No matter what temptation he faced, and no matter what consequences were, he lived with integrity and he lived with honesty, always telling the truth, always working his hardest, always doing his best for whoever he was working for. So yeah, Joseph is a good answer. Yeah.
We're looking specifically for guys.
It could be women too.
Ruth?
I have Ruth on my list, yes.
Mhm.
Ruth is an awesome example of integrity, and it kind of goes back to what she did with Naomi, staying with her after her husband died. She didn't have any obligation to Naomi, but she stayed anyway. And that's really, really cool. That shows integrity, yeah. And a lot of things in Ruth's story as well.
Paul,
The Apostle Paul,
yes, after his conversion.
yeah. He probably could be on the list. I would agree with you. I don't have him on the list. That doesn't mean it doesn't.
Failure.
That doesn't mean it doesn't work. Like I said, the people I have on my list, it's not like I know every person in the Bible and thought about everybody. But I don't have him on my list just because of how awful he was before he got saved. Like I just put him down. Like he was murdering Christians all the time, and I was like, is that really integrity? Probably not. Although after he got saved, there are several instances in which you could say Paul kind of made the wrong choice there and did not do the right thing. So yes, but not perfectly. He certainly strove for it, which is what we should all be doing. What do you
I
think?
put like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Yeah, they're really good, and you're really, really close to one of the people I have on my list. Daniel, yeah. I have Daniel on my list. No consequences whatsoever if he ate the meat that the king offered him, right? He would have been like, cool, this tastes great, I'm having a good time in Babylon. I live in a palace now, and I'm living the palace life. But he chose not to do that. It's true, that's what would have happened to him. But he chose to follow God's law instead, even though there was no, yeah.
I was gonna think that when the 2 spies went to the city. and, like,
Rahab.
Rahab.
Yeah.
I didn't put her, she was a prostitute, so.
Yeah, it's
Not on my list.
You're right.
But
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah.
There's one more person that's on my list. That doesn't mean those are the only people. This is just to get you guys thinking about it.
I was gonna say Samuel.
Samuel, I don't have him on my list. He made some bad decisions. He put his sons in charge as the next judges, and they turned out to be no good, and he made some. I don't have him on my list, but that doesn't mean, just because someone's not on my list doesn't mean they don't have integrity. I just was looking for the top of the top. Jesus is on there. Joshua. I don't have him on my list, but I don't, off the top of my head, I can't think of why not. Yeah. So, in the interest of time, I'm just going to say,
So you
the
should
last,
put it down.
I should put him down? Okay. Judith says Joshua. I have Job. Why didn't we think of that?
Of
Because you're
course.
not me.
Couldn't you put anyone on the list if like they obeyed God?
They would have to obey God consistently.
So like flawless or
Not flawlessly. No one has obeyed God flawlessly,
Right.
but consistently. So like, for example, I thought about King David, but
Except for
he followed God, and God called him a man after his own heart. But David lied, cheated, and murdered his way into things that he wanted. So I did not put him on the list. I thought about Abraham, but he also lied several times to the Egyptians because he was afraid. He didn't trust God. Okay, so I didn't put him on the list. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh, Abel.
Well, he he died pretty quick. So. There are a lot of people who can be on the list, guys. There are a lot of people. This is just to get you thinking about it, okay? Just to get you thinking about it, all right? So, are we all clear on like the definition, what we're talking about when we say integrity, what we mean when we say honesty?
Yes.
We're all good?
Yeah.
Okay, so tonight, what we're really going to be talking about is it ever okay to lie? Ooh.
No.
Ooh.
But a
is it ever
surprise
okay to lie?
party.
I have 3 verses. I need 3 volunteers to look up verses for me. They are going to be on the screen, but please, if you have a Bible, look them up anyway. Colossians 3, 9 and 10. Judith. Proverbs 6, 16 to 19.
Sure.
David. And John 8, 44.
Proverbs 3, 16 and 19.
Proverbs 6, 16 to 19. Yeah. While you guys are looking that up, I'm going to read you this kind of like goofy letter that Justin gave me to read you guys. Kind of illustrates our point a little bit. So it says, Mr. and Mrs. Jones received this letter from their daughter Julie, a college freshman. Dear Mom and Dad, I just thought I'd drop you a note to let you know what's going on with me. I've fallen in love with a guy named Blaze. He's a really neat guy, but he quit high school a few years ago to get married. That didn't work out, so he got a divorce last year. We've been going out for several weeks, and we're thinking about getting married in the fall. Until then, I've decided to move into his apartment. I think I might be pregnant. Oh yeah, I dropped out of school last week so that I could get a job to help support Blaze. I'm hoping to be able to finish college after we get married. Mom and Dad, I just want you to know that everything I've written so far in this letter is a lie. None of it is true. But Mom and Dad, it is true that I got a C in French and a D in math. And it's also true that I need some more money. Could you please send me $100? Thanks a bunch. Love, Julie. She received a check in the mail from her parents 2 days later. I don't really know how to tie that into the lesson, but I thought it was funny, and Justin gave it to me to read to you, so there you go. She obviously lied and did not deal with integrity. She lied to get what she wanted.
But it worked.
Well, if it works, that means right.
Was she lying or telling the truth?
She was lying,
She
yeah.
was lying.
She
Wait,
was
wait,
lying
she
and
was-
then
she was
she
lying.
Wait, she was lying about lying?
But she was telling the truth.
No, she was telling the truth.
She
Yeah.
was telling the truth.
So she was using she was trying to make herself look good?
Don't overthink
Yeah,
it.
she made up a story
Exactly.
so they wouldn't get upset about the grade. They'd be like, oh, thank God
They
she's
made
not
a much, she
blamed.
made a much worse story.
She's got a D. A D isn't that
I
bad
thought she was
compared
lying
to
about
B's.
saying, oh, I lied, so that she could get money
You're
for
overthinking
Blaze.
it.
You're
overthinking it.
To get money for Blaze.
Yeah.
I don't think Blaze is real. I hope he's not real. Julie's not even real, guys. I think that's a fake letter. Alright? So, is it ever okay to lie? Think about that as we listen to these verses. So Colossians 3, 9 and 10.
Do not lie to one another, seeing that you have put off the old self with its practices, and have put on the new self, which is being renewed in knowledge after the image of its creator.
Okay, thank you. Proverbs 6, 16 to 19.
There are 6 things the Lord hates, even that are detestable to him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked schemes, feet that are quick to rush into evil, a false witness who pours out lies, and a man who stirs up dissension among brothers.
And John 8, 44.
You are of your father the devil, and your will is to do your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning, and does not stand in the truth, because there is no truth in him. And when he lies, he speaks out of his own character, for he is a liar and the father of lies.
Okay, so this is some pretty strong language in the Bible about lying. What are these verses telling us about lying? How does God view lying?
No.
He hates it.
He hates lying. Okay, that's the first thing I have. God hates lies. He hates lying. What else? One thing from each verse I kind of pulled out. What do you guys notice about lying?
It's bad.
It's bad. God hates it. It's bad. Good. Got that covered.
It's from Satan.
It is from Satan. Satan is the father of lies. And that verse, really, really, really convicting for me. When I was younger, it was really, really easy for me to like lie to my parents so I didn't get in trouble. Like it was easy and I was good at it. Okay, so this verse really, really convicted me and really helped me to pull out of that sin pattern. Because like if you are someone who lies consistently, you're literally working for Satan. Like, that's his business. That's his dealings. This is what Satan does. He lies all the time. And he deceives the world through lies. So if you're someone who's lying, you're helping Satan. And as a Christian, how can we be helping Satan? How can we be working for him? What else? There's one more thing I saw.
You should put it off.
Put off lying. Yeah, that's right. Christians are expected to be honest. We're putting off lying because we're new creations. Lying is not something that is appropriate for us to be doing as Christians. So that's what I have. God hates lying. Christians are expected to be honest because we're new creation, and that Satan is the father of lies. So really, really clear what God thinks about lying. So that kind of maybe sets the stage for our next question. Is there ever a time when it is okay to lie?
Technically, no.
Technically,
Surprise
no.
parties.
Yeah.
I think there's a difference between lying and not telling someone something.
Okay.
Yeah, like not like they ask you about it and you don't tell them, but like
That's
if it just never comes
That's
up.
deceiving.
Okay.
But that's not
Deceiving
lying.
is still
Like,
lying.
There's a difference between deceit.
Like some people would just.
It's a hard issue.
Well, if
It's
you,
hard.
so say I did something, well, say there was something that I want to tell you.
Okay.
If you never ask me about it, I'm never lying to you.
That's true.
But if you say, hey Emma, did you touch that screen? If I say no, and I did, then I'm lying. But if you never ask me,
You don't have to go and
If
tell
I never
everything
asked
you
you
did.
that
Then she was just
touched the
sitting.
screen.
It says,
Well, wait.
do not
Then she was
touch
just
the- yeah,
Oh, wait,
you
Oh,
listen.
okay.
But wait, what about this? What if my dad says, Grant, did you drive my car into a shopping cart? And I said, no, the shopping cart hit my
Drove
car.
itself into me.
That's what you said.
If I said the shopping cart hit my car, technically, no matter how you look at it, the shopping cart hit my car and my car hit the shopping cart. But I said it backwards, which is not lying, but I'm withholding information that I was the one that moved into it.
How about we
No.
don't think of it deeply and we just
That's
think of
lying.
it, is it ever okay to lie?
Because
No.
that's purposely
So, yeah.
deceiving
And that's
your
purposely
father
saying that
for self-gain.
But that's purposely deceiving Adam for self-gain of
I'm
not
not
knowing
deceiving you.
that-
You never
that-
asked.
but that
See,
is
your dad
deceiving.
asked.
So-
That's still deceiving.
It's not deceiving.
Do you know that you would get in trouble?
Is it for selfish gain?
What do you think, David?
You're going back on yourself.
Guys, let's listen to David. He's going to sort this out.
The Ten Commandments didn't say you can't lie, but except for this circumstance. It just says no lying. Even deceit.
True.
Deceit.
Well, drop the
The
mic.
Ten Commandments don't really say.
Bearing false witness. So, wow. When I
Thou
hear,
shalt not lie.
you heard that
if I
term,
ask
bearing
you
false
to throw a
witness.
surprise
False
party,
witness.
and you are, what are you gonna say?
No comment.
Just walk away.
First of all,
No, you
maybe
say
we're
yes,
gonna
and then they
split
say when, and you say I'm not telling you.
Honestly.
Okay, what's a surprise party?
Huh?
What's a surprise party? That's
what's a
what you
surprise
said.
party? It
There you
depends.
go.
I pulled off surprise parties without lying. We had one for my mom like 2 years ago when she turned, don't worry about it. And we didn't lie to her. My aunt just picked her up and said, do you want to go out with me? And my aunt picked her up and took her away. We set everything up, and when she got home, there was a party. No lying involved.
But, okay, you win.
That's why I'm sitting up here.
It depends, I feel like if you don't tell someone something, because you know it'll get you in trouble, that is deceit, and deceit is a lie.
But deceit
Yeah.
is not.
But
Exactly.
Emma's example of
But if
touching
I
the screen and not
withhold
telling
information,
Adam
like
that she
telling you
touched
guys what I
it.
had
What
for
if
dinner,
it's
that's
with
not
all
lying.
So,
What's the record
He wasn't
It's-
asking you to give him
There's a lot of things. It's like,
right. So let me make this more complicated.
Because my parents
asked
always
for
say
it.
like, if you don't ask and you don't tell us, that's still deceiving us.
That's true. If you are driving your dad's car and a shopping cart hits the car,
And he doesn't notice,
even if he doesn't notice,
I should still tell
you
him.
should still tell him.
why?
Because
That would be.
Trust me,
That's integrity.
I accidentally backed up into someone.
Because-
Oh!
Here's the thing that's happening.
Oh my god.
guys, listen to this.
This is a real
The thing
situation.
about honesty and integrity is that it's not just I don't lie. It's that I seek out to tell the truth in all situations.
Keyword, seek out.
Yes, seek out to tell the truth. Now, I'm not saying if you know a surprise party, go ruin it. That's not what I mean. But if you're driving your dad's car and you back into a pole and you think he's not going to notice, it's your job to tell him what happened. That's having integrity. Facing the consequences for your actions.
This happened. This is a very real circumstance. That happened.
I've done this.
I've never
I've
read
done
it in
that.
my death.
And
I didn't know that there was any damage, so I was like, I don't have to say anything.
So there is damage?
There was a scratch.
Well, my advice to you would be to tell your dad what happened.
Well, yeah, this is done and over with. But
Okay.
at the time of the
And you're still alive.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Are you not allowed to drive the car?
No, I drove it here.
So what about like a white lie? Like
It's still alive.
your
White
friend-
lies don't exist.
your
White lie
friend-
has the word lie in it, and
All right, so like
Turn that down.
if I get a horrible haircut and I'm like, "Do you like my haircut?"
No.
No.
you can always
You can just
Oh,
say
it's interesting.
I really like your shoes.
One time, a girl dyed her hair, and it looked gray. She meant for it to be like blonde. I was like, it looks gray. And it sounded like I said gray, but it was actually gray.
Just don't correct me. What
So
about
I did lie technically.
what about a lie for the protection of somebody else?
maybe you
So,
should be
like,
protecting them, and
picture
maybe
this.
you should be telling them.
Knock, knock, knock. Who's there?
Hello.
It's the Nazis. You have any Jews in your basement. I'm being serious.
Oh, I would lie.
Do you have any? Are you hiding any Jewish
Wait,
people?
I would lie.
Rahab lied to protect the spies.
yeah.
Yes, she did.
We said that she
People in the Bible sin.
This is why she wasn't on the list.
That is right.
So
That
I'll
is
give
not a
you.
white
So
lie.
most recently, the example that happened was someone. I don't know all the details of this, but someone was arrested who was part of their ministry.
Yeah.
And they asked, like, did you do this thing? And they said, yes, I did. And they got sentenced to jail. They're in jail for like 7 years now. But they handled that with integrity. They were honest. They were like, yes, I had Bibles. You know, I don't know if that's what it was, but I know that it was something mission related.
But
Like,
what if,
yes, I had
but what if
Bibles.
you have currently, like the situation you said, is a very real
Yeah,
that did
this
happen.
man is in jail right now.
No, I'm talking
We
about
also
the
have
Jews.
The Nazis.
I'm talking about the Jews and the Nazis.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because that's like, you can't reason with a Nazi about
No,
it.
you can't.
No, I would
So-
totally lie.
so is it
I'm
okay to
not
lie?
saying
I would.
Well, okay, so the Bible, I think, besides like the prostitution part of Rahab, like I feel like the Bible like speaks very highly of Rahab because
She's honored. She's in the
yeah,
lineage
she's
of
in the line
Christ.
of Jesus. So like, I feel like if she hadn't have saved the spies, then like she wouldn't have done anything good. So like, why would she be there? So I think that.
So-
do you see what I'm trying to
I
point
do see what
out?
you're trying to say. And there are two more things I would point out.
Okay, go ahead.
Joseph's brothers sold him into slavery. Clearly bad. Clearly
But God
bad.
used it for good.
But God used it for good.
God shows
Without
it.
Joseph's brothers selling him into slavery, there is no Israel. There is no Jesus. There is none of that. Without them doing that thing, right? But it was an evil thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can all agree.
Yes.
You
So-
can agree. You're shaking your head.
So
no.
God
So,
used. So you're
would
saying
you-
God used the evil thing of lying?
What would Jesus do
Um,
if,
Would you
if
let Rahab?
well, Jesus is Jewish, but
Would you have had Rahab tell the truth?
Would I have had Rahab tell the truth? I think that in the circumstances like what we're talking about in China, in circumstances like where Rahab has the spies, there's that temptation to lie because that's my way of controlling the situation and my way of saying I don't want this horrible thing to happen and I don't see a way out, right? So I'm gonna lie about it.
So it's
But
more trust in
where's the
God.
trust of God? Yeah.
I
What is-
feel like
What is God gonna do? I don't know what would have happened if Rahab had not lied.
with
Think-
the. Sorry, I
No,
can't
that's
remember.
fine.
The lying in China though, like I feel like if the person would have said no, like I don't have Bibles, then they're like denying Jesus.
Right.
But Rahab wasn't denying Jesus by protecting the spies.
That's true, but she was still lying.
So say Jesus for a second wasn't Jewish.
Okay.
He was German.
Why does that German?
And then he had Jews in his house. Would Jesus lie?
No.
No, he wouldn't.
No, he
so
wouldn't.
then therefore I say that no, lying is never okay.
And it is never okay.
Even if you're protecting people's lives, I think Jesus would have had the trust of God.
Right, and there are times, look at when Jesus was protecting lives. Remember when they pulled that woman out of that house who had been committing adultery? And they were getting ready to stone her. And they were like, Jesus, what are we going to do? What did he say? Did he lie and say, oh no, that's not what the Bible says. We're not supposed to stone her.
No.
Did he say, you got the wrong woman. She didn't do adultery. How did he handle that?
The first person who didn't sin for the first stone.
Yeah. And he did not lie. And that would have been a very easy way for him to try to get her out of that. Right? So ultimately, lying is never okay. It doesn't matter what the situation is. In a situation where you're tempted to lie, maybe you're in China with Bibles you shouldn't have. Maybe you're Rahab with spies. I think, and this is really tough because like, I'm not perfect. Like, I would be so tempted to lie. I probably would lie. But we are called to trust God. And God's plan might mean those 2 spies would have died. And it means that that guy went to jail in China. That's what trusting God got him. He's in jail for 7 years. But that's part of God's plan. And we have to trust that. And upholding our integrity and our testimony is more important than saving ourselves or saving other people. Does that make sense? David?
I was gonna say, like, when the Pharisees went to Jesus and said, like, oh, let's try to get him to say this, or let's try to get him to lie and go against what his teaching is,
Mm-hmm.
Jesus would answer with a question
Mm-hmm.
in Scripture. That's how he didn't lie about it. He used, his knowledge to his advantage.
Right. So if somebody comes up to you and says, hey, is there a surprise party? You say, I don't know, is there?
Mm-hmm. In
No.
Scripture.
That probably won't work.
Because
but-
what if you do know? Then you lie.
You're right. So you say,
Is there?
What would you do?
yeah. Okay.
Linear activity.
So ultimately, even lies that seem to come from good intentions are not okay. And I know that's like really, really tough. That's tough to wrap my brain around. It was tough to wrap my brain around as I was putting this lesson together. I was like, really though? Like, the guy in China?
I know, that's why I spelled thank you.
Yeah, it's so tough. I get it. But if we're trusting God, we have to trust God with the truth. We have to trust God with the consequences. Because in his situation, when he's doing the right thing, he knows he's serving God. Look at all 12 of the disciples. What happened to them when they trusted God? They all died.
Well, did one of them not die?
John was put on an island by himself. Bummer. It didn't work out well. There's no guarantee that following God ends well for us. But we're
Well,
supposed
it
to.
does. It does end well.
Heaven.
Well, you know what I mean. Come on. It ends well at the end. So let's talk about some of the benefits of honesty and the opposite of benefits.
The disadvantages?
Disadvantages of dishonesty. So dishonesty, once you become known as a liar, you will always be fighting to prove reliability. This is kind of like that boy who cried wolf story we've all heard a million times. And like when I was younger, dude, that was me. Like my parents didn't believe anything I said. Seriously. It's really, really true. You have to prove yourself. Trust is earned. You have to demonstrate your willingness, your worthiness in order to receive it. If you're not an honest person, people are going to know that about you. And it really affects every area of your life. You're not trusted with things. If you guys are all probably at the age where you're starting to work jobs, you're not going to be trusted with many things at whatever job you're at if you're not an honest person. And the honest people get promotions and get more money fast. I've seen it happen. So as far as honesty, demonstrating a pattern of honesty earns the trust of people in your life. Honesty results in increased responsibility. Like that's that kind of thing where you're working at a job and the boss notices that you're always honest. When he counts the cash register at the end of the night, if David's on the cash register that night, it's always the right amount of money, right? Telling the truth about what you're doing, calling out if you're actually sick. You know what I mean? All those kind of things. And this makes me think of Joseph in Potiphar's house, right? He sold as a slave in this guy's house, and like within a couple of years, he was running the place because the Bible says he did everything with integrity and honesty, and he followed God in all things. And so in a secular Egyptian pagan's house, he was literally in charge of everything, and he was living well. God blessed his choice to be a man of integrity. Honesty increases your ability to minister to others. One of the things that I found is that if I'm honest with you, you're more likely to be honest with me. We can have a dialogue. If you feel like Adam doesn't ever tell me the truth, or Adam's never open, he's never willing to talk about what's going on in his life. People don't really want to connect with people like that. So if you want to be in ministry, and we should all want to be in ministry. I'm not saying everybody has to be a pastor. But when I say be in ministry, is impacting other people in your life for Christ.
Even as an example, if you're being honest, you don't even have to talk to someone, they can just they respect what you believe because of how you live.
Yeah, you're right. So it increases your ability to minister to others. And finally, as Christians, we are representatives of God, and our testimonies and integrity matter. This is really, really important. We're called God's ambassadors. You guys know what an ambassador is? Right, a representative. So like China will send like an ambassador here to come talk to like the government, and that guy is supposed to represent everything that China is. Okay? That's what we're supposed to be for God. When people look at us, they go, that's what God is like. That's a lot of responsibility, guys. And our testimonies are so important. It's so important to uphold because there's always somebody watching, even if you don't feel like there is. There's always somebody who's going to notice the things you do, and that your testimony can make or break whether someone is interested in what God has to say and being open to hearing from God. So think about those things. I'll leave you with this verse. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there's any excellence, if there's anything worthy of praise, think about these things. What you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, practice these things, and the God of peace be with you. Okay, so that, I think, is a really, really good summary of what it means to have integrity and to be an honest person. So Justin is going to pick this up with you guys next time. I don't know where the series is going to go from here. I don't know how he's going to be tonight, but he's going to try.
Maybe with a pun.
What's that?
I said maybe with a pun.
Maybe with a pun. We had a few puns from Grant, so they weren't as good. All right, guys. Can I get somebody to close in prayer, and then we'll head upstairs?
Sure.
David, thanks, bud.
Dear Lord, thank you for